And I'll draw it again on the next slide and kind of talk about it one more time. Okay? You guys see it? I'll put it on the next one as well. Oops. Yay, it's Friday. Also, you guys, I do always put either silly or inspirational. This says, and I really want you to think about this one and try and process it. It says, a mistake that makes you humble is better than an achievement that makes you arrogant. So, like, and I hope that this is a safe place. It's a safe place to make mistakes. It's a safe place to ask questions. All right, so tell me something you know about slope. Anything at all that you remember. Theron.
Y equals mx plus b.
Okay, so in y equals mx plus b, m represents the slope. Good job. All right, what's something else? Like, what is it? What else do you know about slope? Ooh, okay, there we go. So slope is rise over the run. Isn't it steepness of a line? I'm thinking about one other thing about slope being m. Do you remember a little formula? Anybody remember it? y2 minus y1
Plus
over x2 minus x1. So make sure you got all these different things on here. Okay, slope. Slope is in y equals mx plus b. It's rise over the run. It's the steepness of the line. Okay, what do you know about parallel lines? Anything at all about a set of parallel lines?
Never intersect.
Awesome. Okay, they never intersect. Anybody remember some geometry or algebra 1? What do you know about slopes of parallel lines? Yeah. Okay, they have the same slope. Now we need a little qualifier. They have the same slope but different y-intercept, because if it has the same y-intercept, it's the same line, and the same line on top of itself isn't parallel. All right, what do you know about perpendicular lines?
Cross.
How do they cross? They do cross, but they cross in a specific way. Yeah, Sophia? Good job. Okay, they intersect at right angles or 90 degrees. Okay, they intersect to form right angles, and the slopes are what we call opposite reciprocals. And I'm going to put an example here. Like, I could say 2/3 and -3/2. So when we talk about perpendicular lines and that they have slopes that are opposite reciprocals, that just means, like if I have a fraction, I flip it as a reciprocal. Opposite means one's positive and one's negative. All right, if you didn't get a chance or you didn't do it, let's do Mr. Slope Guy again. Didn't turn out so swift, did it? So I put a plus and a minus. This is positive slope is rising. This is negative slope. Vertical lines have slopes that are undefined, and horizontal lines have slope 0, okay? This is really cool. It's really neat to be able to help you with that. All right, the next slide talks about slope of a non-vertical line is the ratio of the vertical change divided by the horizontal change. So there's your y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, using that formula, please do 1 and 2. Find the slope and then graph the line. So let me give you a head start on me. So do m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, but also sketch a graph, okay? Plot it on a little grid. Alright, so here we go. On the first one, I'm going to take 4 minus 7 over negative 2 minus negative 3. So that's negative 3 over 1. Okay, be careful here. 4 minus 7 is negative 3, but you're taking negative 2 minus a negative 3. So that becomes negative 2 plus 3. If I do a quick sketch, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here's negative 3, 7, and negative 2, 4. Do you notice the negative slope? The line is falling from left to right. So when you sketch a graph and you know the slope, you can do a double check and go, hey, wait a minute, negative slope, my line is falling. And if your line is rising, that's how you self-check that you've made a mistake, or you're verifying you did it correctly. All right, number 2, 1 minus negative 6 over 7 minus 7. So that becomes 7 over 0. Let's write this down one more time. Do you remember? 0 on the top is okay. 0 on the bottom, no way. So this one is undefined. And let's look at a sketch here. If I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, here's 7, comma 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a vertical line, right? And I want you to think about our definition of slope. If slope is rise over the run, what's happening when I rise up? You keep rising, it's like, I like to think of this as I'm on a roller coaster that's taking me straight up, one of those that takes you straight up and then plummets you straight back down. Like I'm going up and I cannot get off the roller coaster, okay? It's scary, that can happen, so it's undefined. All right, any questions on how you find slope given 2 points? This should be review, right? You remember this? Okay. So let's look at this one. It says slope-intercept form is our y equals mx plus b, m is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. It says, what is the equation of each line? If m is 1/5 and the y-intercept is 0, negative 3. Anybody want to tackle this one? Pretty straightforward. What's the equation then? If you know m and you know b. David, what do you think?
Y equals 1/5. Can you do plus the negative 3?
Yeah, but we typically don't do plus a negative 3. The equivalent way would be minus 3. Okay? Yeah. All right, how about number 2? All right, Chris, if m is 6, and the y-intercept is 0, 5. What's the equation?
Y equals 6x
Plus 5, because 5 is positive. All right, number 3. The line crosses the y-axis at 4 and passes through 1, 1. Okay, let's stop and think here a moment. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's telling me it's crossing the y-axis at 4, isn't that b is 4? and then I have a point, x, y. So I'm going to go to y equals mx plus b, and I don't know m. When I go to y equals mx plus b, I have the point x, y, and I have a b, but I don't have m. Well, it's a great thing in chapter 1 that we learned how to solve equations for one letter. We're using that now. That's so cool. So here we go. I'm going to subtract 4, and m is -3. Now I can write my equation. So this is y equals -3x plus 4. Okay, is this ringing bells? Is this coming back to you? You did this definitely 2 years ago. All right, number 4. What if the line passes through 0, -3, and -2, -2? You can do this one at least one of 2 ways. Can you tell that b is -3 if it's 0, -3? And don't I have, and I'd like you guys to think about, you have like a math tool belt on, and I have a math tool belt. I'll show it to you. I've got some really neat things in it. It is, okay. I've got some tools. I don't have one today, but I've got my math tool belt. One year, my husband and I kept talking about the math tool belt, and for Mother's Day, he always gives me just a little something. It's real sweet. And he got me a tool belt. He says, you should put those things in there. So, this one's funny. I probably could have shown you this one. Is, you know how when we evaluated, when x is -2, you plug it in? That's like this one. Chapter 6, I'm going to explain what the light switch is for. And in chapter 5, you'll learn what my caret is for. That one's a popular one. Chapter 4 or 5, we'll learn about the bar of soap. This one's funny. So, and actually I could have shown you this one too. This is a little dustpan with a little broom. And do you know how, like, either when you're combining like terms or you're solving an equation where like you're going to do the distributive property, you need to clean up each side? Yeah, I'm a comedian, let me tell you. Well, my children tell me I'm the only one that thinks that. So I've got Quadratic Formula is in here. So anyway, one of the tools, I don't think I need to add this one. Okay, I got a new one. Is we should put the slope formula in here. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I do -2 minus -3 over -2 minus 0. So what I want to point out to you is number 3 and number 4 are really the same problem, and I'm doing them 2 different ways. Because in your math tool belt, if y equals mx plus b makes sense to you, use it. If doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, if that makes more sense to you, use that. I will never ever say to you that you have to do it this one way. Whichever way makes sense to you, that's the method I want you to use. So this is going to be 1 over -2 or -1/2. So now I can go to y equals mx plus b, and y equals -1/2 x minus 3. Again, either way that makes sense to you. If you like y equals mx plus b, or you like the slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If you know the y-intercept, that's a point, okay? It's 0, the b, then you can use that m formula. All right, on the next slide, it says write the following equations in y equals mx plus b form. That's slope-intercept. Then identify m and b. Again, oh my goodness, this is like I was setting you up for success. Is it when I say we want to solve for y, and I said divide it individually, this is where we're going with it. So there's always a method to my madness. Every time we're doing something, I am trying to make your life easier. I'm trying to make this easier for you to understand, okay? So, I'm going to do number 1 with you, then I want you to try 2, 3, and 4 on your own. So, let me guide you here. Number 1, I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides of the equation. And then you do want to use, and I've got a good tool in here. Let's see if I can find it. Do you remember the commutative property? The commutative property says a plus b equals b plus a. So look, I had 16 minus 5x. I did the commutative property and switched the order. Then I'm going to individually divide. So I get y equals positive 5/4 x minus 4. So there it is, solved for y. And then m is 5/4 and b is negative 4. Okay? So if you will listen to me when I say individually divide, because this is going to help you, I'm training you for the future, then I need you to trust me to say, hey, she's doing this because it's going to help me later. All right, try 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to give you a hint on number 3. On number 3, you might want to clear the fraction first. All right, hopefully you're done with number 2. I got y equals negative 3/2 x plus 9, where m, it does say identify the slope and y-intercept, so make sure below this you're writing the 2 things out. Any questions on 2, how you do that? All right, now, number 3, I'm going to rewrite this because it's kind of crazy the way that one looks. So this is negative 3/4 x plus 1/2 y equals negative 1. All right, fractions are rough, okay? Fractions can be difficult to deal with. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to get rid of them. So if I look at the denominators, what is the one number that would clear both numbers? 4, okay? So I'm going to go through and I'm going to multiply by 4. Now, there's something you learned in Algebra 1 called the multiplication property for equations. And what the multiplication property for equation says is I have to multiply everything, not just one thing on one side, but everything that I see together. So when I do that, I'm going to get negative 3x. Reduce that, that's 2y equals negative 4. So again, anytime you have fractions in an equation, they're yucky, so we clear them. So you pick the common denominator, and now, hey, I can handle this one. This one's not bad. I'm going to add 3x, and get 2y equals 3x minus 4, and divide by 2, and I'm golden. Y equals 3/2 x minus 2. So m is 3/2, and b is negative 2. M is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. All right, then number 4. Add 7x to both sides of the equation, and be careful, that's negative 5y equals 7x plus 35. And then I'm going to individually divide by negative 5. So y equals negative 7/5 x minus 7. So m is negative 7/5 and b is negative 7. All right, last slide. In number 1, I have y equals 1/2 x plus 1. What's the rise, the run, and the b value? So fill it in if you know. So in number 1, what's the rise? 1. I'm just asking for the rise. It's 1, the run is 2, and b is 1. So you're going to plot b and then use rise over run to get your second point. So let me refresh your memory here and let's write this down. Is plot b, then use m to plot a second point. Okay, write this down in your notes. This will help you when you go to do homework. You're like, now how did I do this if you happen to not remember? So the rise was 1, the run is 2, and the y-intercept is 1. So I'm going to plot, my y-intercept is 1, and then I go up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2. And notice, the slope is positive, and this line rises from left to right. And number 2, what do I have to do first before I can do that process? Add 2x to both sides because I need it to be in y equals mx plus b. All right, so m is 2 or 2 over 1. So watch this one. If I plot the y-intercept, I go up 2, right 1, up 2, right 1. Hey, do you notice this line is steeper than the other one? And do you remember our FredX exploration? And I said put these in your graphing calculators. So the larger the slope, the steeper the line. Okay, so I think the back of this is blank. So what I'd like you to do is I want you to take out your laptops, and we're going to do from yesterday the 2.2 formative quiz. So take out your laptops.